So today I'll be discussing about the chapter Diversity in Living World. So it's the very first chapter of NCERT in biology, and it's actually important in NCERT, considering that it's a basic chapter. You will get probably one or two questions from it, but it is a basic chapter. It creates the base for further chapters, so it's very important in order to understand it properly. Okay, so in brief, this chapter discusses about the enormous amount of diversity that are present in our living world. About it discusses about the all the living organisms like plants and animals and bacteria and fungi and everything. And in this chapter, they are trying to show you the classification of all the living organisms into a systematic manner. Like we cannot study all the organisms individually. Like we are not computers, so we won't be able to memorize each and every one of them. So as humans, we have to classify the things in order to understand it properly, in order to understand the functions of the world properly, in order to understand the patterns. Humans actually look for patterns in everything. So that's why this chapter deals with the classification, nomenclature, and identification, and several other aspects of classification in this chapter. So let's start solving the NCERT exercise questions for this. So first question was, why are living organisms classified? So as I said that it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms. As of now, we are having 1.7 to 1.8 million organisms in this entire world, and it is expected that there are still 6 to 7 million more organisms that are not discovered yet. So it is common sense that we cannot study all of them. We cannot memorize all of their names and everything. So we have to create a system of classification in order to make this process easier. Okay, that's why we're classifying the living organisms. For example, if I see a dog and cat in a street, so how can I differentiate between these? I can differentiate based on the characters, based on some features like cats will have long tails, dog will have shorter tail. Cats are generally smaller than dogs. So that's how we can classify them, and that's how we can remember them easily. So the answer to the first question is simply that it is impossible to study all the living organisms. That's why it is necessary to have a classification system in order to make the process easier. Now coming to the second question, why are the classification system changing every now and then? So if you look at the history, like the classification system is actually existing from really far in the past. Like in the earlier days when humans used to hunt for their food and shelter and clothes, then our priority was different. Then our priority was based on basic needs like food, clothes, and shelter. That's why at that time we classified the organisms based on their uses, based on their uses and based on the source of food. For example, we classify the plants as spices, like chili and turmeric. They give us spices, so these two plants will be considered as spices. Then there were some medicinal plants like different kinds of herbs and ashwagandha or datura plants. So these plants were classified as for having its medical uses, medicinal properties. And we also classified plants. We also classified foods based on fruits like mangoes or apple, etc., or meat. There are also meat animals from which we get meat. So that's how we classified in the earlier days. But with time, when our basic needs started to getting fulfilled, we started having the curiosity of learning about the organisms more and more. So we now wanted to not only know about the organisms, we wanted to know about the relationship between two different organisms also, and that's how systematics originated actually. So systemics is a branch of taxonomy which deals with the study of two different organisms, including the relationship between them, which is also known as phylogeny. The relationship between two organisms is known as phylogeny. So systemics So systematics include the phylogeny and the study about phylogeny of organism and the study about organism. Okay, so first of all, let's see about two kingdom classification. So in the history, so we first saw that in the earlier days we classified the organisms based on their uses to us, and then in the later years, in the 1800, in the 1780s, there was a scientist called Leeuwenhoek. So he classified the whole living organisms into two distinct categories: plants and animals, based on the presence or absence of cell walls. So this classification was known as two kingdom classification. It was really popular back in the days, and it continued for about 200 years. So this was the first time someone actually tried to classify the organisms based on actually came up with a viable idea of classification. So two kingdom classification was the first viable idea of classification, which helped to form the basis of further systems of classifications that happened in future. So from two kingdom classification, although it was really great for that time, but it had some drawbacks. Like it did not include protista. It did not include some animals like archaebacteria and other animals. So we saw the need to form a different form of classification. So then came R.H. Whittaker, who classified the entire living organism into 5 different kingdoms: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. So his classification was based on not only on cell structure, which was the criteria for Leeuwenhoek. The cell wall was the criteria for Leeuwenhoek, and R.H. Whittaker took that into account, and along with it, he also took into account the nutrition, thallus organization, phylogeny, and reproduction. So based on these 5 criteria, he classified the entire living population into Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia, these 5 kingdoms. So this was a really this is actually a really good system of classification, which and in NCERT, the 5 kingdom classification is described. It is described in detail. So in NEET, for NEET, we have to study the 5 kingdom classification, which you will study in the later chapters. And apart from that, if we consider the modern system of classification, it is actually based on 3 domain or 6 kingdom classification. It was given by Carl Woese, and the basis of this classification was the structure of 16S rRNA. So he divided the entire living population into 3 domains: archaea, prokarya, and eukarya. And this is actually out of scope for NEET, so we don't have to worry about it that much. Just the name is sufficient, the 3 domain classification. So so to summarize this, summarize the answer, why is there a need for changing the classification system every now and then? Why are we changing the classification systems? So the answer is, in order to classify the organisms better. With time, our understanding is increasing about the organisms. With time, we are finding newer and newer organisms, and with time, our knowledge is also increasing. So according to that knowledge, we are finding different bases of classification which are better than the previous ones, and that's why we're changing the systems of classification with time. Now the third question. Third question is, what different criteria would you choose to classify people you meet often? So this is not actually an academical question. This type of question will not come in NEET, but it is actually this is actually fun to solve. Like just imagine the people you see, like your friends or your parents or your teachers. So just try to think about it. Just try to procrastinate about it. That how would you classify them in different categories? For example, if I were to classify the people I meet in my life in a classification system, I would categorize them into 3 categories: introverts, ambiverts, and extroverts. And it is actually a popular classification that is used by many psychiatrists also. Like introverts are those who don't generally talk much, who are kind of shy and they don't have many friends. Okay, and there are the ambiverts who are sort of introverted and sort of extroverted, and the extroverts are the ones who are really talkative. They can make friends easily. They are very expressive in terms of their behavior. They are not shy at all. So I can classify my friends into these three categories. And otherwise, there are also there can be also different kinds of classifications. Like we can classify. I can classify my friends based on the place where they live. Like I have some friends from Bihar, so they are Biharis. I have some friends from Kerala, so they are Keralites. Some friends from Rajasthan, they are Rajasthani, and my friends from Bengal, they are Bengali. So I can classify like this. So you should try to classify you should try this fun experiment of classifying your friends according to your own according to your own thoughts. Okay, so next now coming to the next question, like what do we learn from identification of individuals and population? So this question is actually a really good one. Like how identification helps in helps us in taxonomy. So identification actually helps in finding the similarities and dissimilarities among different individuals of same kind or between different types of organisms. So in a way, we can say that identification actually helps in classification. Okay, so if you want to classify an organism into a category, first of all, we have to identify that organism. Without identifying some organism, if you don't know what that organism is, how can you classify that? So identification is the primary step for classification. And that's why it is so important to learn how to identify organism based on their morphological characters or genetic characters or everything. So here's a thing of taxonomy, that how do we proceed in how do we proceed in taxonomy. So first of all, we identify an organism, then we give it a name that is known as nomenclature, and finally we classify that organism according to the seven hierarchy that was given by Carl Linnaeus. Now the fifth question was, which one of the is correct nomenclature? So the first option we see Mangifera indica, and second option is also Mangifera indica. But what is the difference? This question is actually based on the rules of nomenclature, which are very, very important. You have to study it for NEET. I mean, NCERT, you can read the NCERT for this. They have given all the rules. You have to memorize it by heart for NEET. So now let's try to solve the question. So Mangifera indica, both the options include the same Mangifera indica, but where's the difference? Look at the, the last name, it defines the species name. So look at this. In first option, the species name starts with a capital letter. And the second option, the species name starts with a small letter. And according to the rules of nomenclature, we cannot start the species name with a capital letter. So the second option is correct and first option is incorrect. The species name has to start with a small letter and the has to start with a capital letter. That is the rule. Now coming to the next question, define a taxon. Give some examples of a taxa at different levels. So this is a really important concept. I used to struggle a lot in this concept when I was preparing, like what is a taxon? It took me about 2 to 3 months to just understand what is a taxon. So I'll try to explain it as simple as simple as I can. Okay, so taxon is actually each rank in classification that defines a particular category. So the definition is a little complex. Let's see by example. For example, this you know that the hierarchy that goes like kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Okay, so each rank, each of these are a rank. kingdom being the highest rank and species being the lowest rank. So each of these rank are called a taxon. Now let's try to understand it with an analogy. In India, we have money. Okay, so you can find a note of 2000 or a note of 500, 200, 100, 50, 20, 10, 5, 2, and 1. So this is the hierarchy of money in our country. So 2000 is the highest rank, equivalent to kingdom, and 1 is the lowest rank, equivalent to species. And in between these, we have different ranks. Okay, and each of these ranks are known as money. 2000 is also money, 500 is also money, 200 is also money, 100, 50, 20, 10, 5, 2, 1. All of these are money. So just replace the money with taxa, replace 2000 with kingdom, 1 with species, and like that. And you can easily understand that taxon is nothing but the rank. This is clear. So let's look at this example, like kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So this question had another component where they asked us to give example of each taxon at each level. So if we see kingdom, examples of kingdom include animals and plants. Example of phylum include non-chordates and chordates. Example of class include mammals, aves, reptilia. That's it. Now, example of order, primates or tetrapods, and example of family, hominidae. Example of genus, Homo, and example of species is sapiens. Yeah, there are different examples of genus also, like Mangifera, and indica is a species. Or I can write cannabis, and species is sativa. So this is it. Now coming to the next question, 7th. So it says that, can you identify the correct sequence of taxonomical categories? So it has for 3 options. The first option is species, then order, then phylum, then kingdom. Second option is genus, then species, then order, then kingdom. And the third option is species, then genus, then order, then phylum. So for that you have to memorize that. The 7 system hierarchy. So see that out of the 4 options, so the correct right answer is this: genus, species, then genus, then order, then phylum. So phylum is a larger rank, order is a lower rank than phylum, genus is a lower rank than order, and species is the lowest rank. So the answer would be C. And for that you have to memorize the hierarchy, taxonomic hierarchy. That's it. And coming to your next question, try to discuss with your teacher the meaning of species in case of higher plants and animals on one hand and bacteria on the other hand. So this question is again not very much important according to NEET, but it's you can ask your teacher. I'll try to describe what a species means in higher plants and animals, and what a species means in case of bacteria. So in case of higher plants and animals, species means a group of similar organisms that are capable of interbreeding. So this is one definition of one and the most accepted definition of species as of now. A group of similar organisms that are capable of interbreeding are known as species. But it has some exceptions too. Example is mules. They cannot interbreed, but they're the same species. They have this similar morphological character, and they are belonging to the same section. Also has some drawbacks, but it is currently the most accepted one. So just for your information, that's all. And for bacteria, the same species is the group of strains that can frequently exchange or could exchange their core genes that are included in the same species. So bacteria, as we all know, has a double-stranded circular DNA. The strains of bacteria Suppose this is a strain A and strain B. They can interchange their genetic material. Okay. If they can interchange their genetic material, they will be included in the same species. It's that simple. Again, it's not important for NEET, so it's just for information. You can read more about this on internet. You can search about it. You'll get several articles or several answers. You can read that. Now coming to the next question, 9. Define and understand the following terms. So phylum, class, family, order, along with their examples. So you can read that. So before kingdom, phylum, division, and species. So this is the taxonomic hierarchy, and we'll proceed according to this. Okay. You don't have to memorize the definition. It's really simple if you just memorize the chart. Okay. So phylum. What is phylum? So this is phylum here. So just look at the rank below phylum. It is class. So the definition of phylum will be classes comprising similar animals are together included in a phylum. For example, Chordata. Chordata includes fishes, reptiles, birds, and mammals. So these 4 classes have similar properties. That's why they're included in the same phylum, that is Chordata. And phylum, this is important, that phylum term is generally used for only animals. And for plants, we have a different term called division. So there are 2 division of plants. One is 2 division of plant. One is 2 division of angiosperms. One is dicotyledons, and the another one is monocotyledons. That's it. Now coming to class. Again, you can create the definition on your own. Like class comprises of animals that are present in the similar orders, or we can say that related orders together is a class. Dicotyledon is a class which includes. Okay. Now coming to family, again in a similar way, you can say that similar genus together comprise a family. Example is Solanaceae. It includes genus Solanum, Petunia, and Datura. Now order definition of order will be similar families together comprise order. Example is Polymonials, and it comprise families Solanaceae and Convolvulaceae. Example is Solanum. Solanum is a genus that comprise potato and brinjal. These are individual species. Now coming to the last question. It is really simple. It's actually given in the NCERT chart, so you can follow that too. So it says that illustrate the taxonomical hierarchy of an animal and a plant. So for animal, I have chosen the example of human, and for a plant, I have chosen the example of mango. So if we follow along the taxonomic hierarchy, we can see that the human species is sapiens, and mango species is indica. So their biological name is Homo sapiens, and a biological name of mango is Mangifera indica. And genus of human is Homo, and genus of mango is Mangifera. Family of human is Hominidae. Order is primates. Class is Mammalia. Phylum is Chordata, and kingdom is Animalia. And for mango, similarly, the family will be Anacardiaceae, order would be Sapindales, class will be Dicotyledons and Dicotyledoni, and division would be Angiospermi. Now notice that I said phylum for animal and division for plant. So you have to remember this thing. And kingdom, Plantae. So that's it. That's the example. And we have solved all the 10 questions of this chapter that was given in the NCERT exercise. So just try to read this chapter from NCERT. again and again, revise this chapter again and again, underline the important areas, important concepts, okay? And the questions in NEET will be really easy. Like you will get direct NCERT texts from your book in the question paper. You have to, the questions will be like fill in the blanks or match the following, like that. So the questions are generally very easy. You just have to read it again and again. You just have to revise it, and that's all.